I feel like I'm just getting caught up in like the nitty gritties of it. Does my hair look okay? Am I poised correctly? Oh my God. Let's just get to the talking, shall we? Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Paroma Sharma and this is my little rectangle where I share a little bit of my life with you. And this is episode 2 of my new series called the PomPod. I don't know if it's a podcast. I don't know if we're just sitting and talking like a bunch of friends. If you want to know more about what this series is about and the kinds of things I want to talk about and just the nature of these discussions, then I will link episode 1 down below in the description. Episode 1 will have all that information for you. Actually, I'm gonna move this table over. I don't care about the aesthetics about this. I just want to have it somewhere where I can like comfortably access my mug. Like all things great, we start with a sip of coffee. Oh, that's good. I have like this inherent fear that I'm going to get a Bluetooth mic and I'm gonna pair the device and I'm gonna sit down and record like this whole entire candid discussion and session, and then it's not gonna get anywhere because I won't have the audio because something will have gone wrong. I'm a grandma, leave me to it. Not that anyone asked, but I'm trying to be a little more unhinged on this platform because I think I have an okay personality and I'd like some of that to show up. I think with the introduction of PomPod, I had kind of followed like a script like to the T because I wanted to make it really concise and hit like all the points that I wanted to discuss. But I think a little bit of like who I really am and my quirkiness and my weirdness got lost in translation there. So we're gonna try to keep as much of that in here as possible. Why is the light doing this to me? It's okay, cozy vibes, cozy vibes. Now this is a trigger warning right at the forefront. If childhood trauma, abuse, domestic abuse, and sexual abuse are subjects that really trigger you and you are uncomfortable with, then this is your cue to not watch this video because I will dive into those topics a little bit. The reason I'm going to cover those topics a little bit is because this platform and this series, PomPod, is about me being candid and open on my like healing journey. But what am I healing from? How am I supposed to take you guys along documenting my healing journey, my thought processes, and the way I'm just trying to live a more mindful life? And I'm very introspective and very intuitive and also inquisitive. And how do I justify all of those things if you don't know the backstory? And so some of this is going to be very heavy, is going to be very, very triggering. But I really want to take a more factual stance. I want to discuss the happenings and the traumas that I've experienced in my childhood just in a very factual way. I don't want to get into the emotions of it or the nitty-gritties of it because let's face it, I think that's better saved for like discussions between me and my therapist, okay? Like, hello. With that being said, I am not a professional. I am not a therapist. Anything I'm discussing here is just from personal experience and my personal point of view. My parents got married really, really young. My mom was a teen when she got married. In fact, she was 19 when I was born. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about certain things that are about my mom's life and stuff. So I'll try to navigate this in the best way possible, keeping everyone in mind. I was a year and a half when we left our home country and we migrated to New York. And from New York, I think by the time I was 2, we had moved to Montreal. It would have been a year and a half or 2 years that we lived in Montreal, and then we moved to Toronto, and that's where I started school. My parents were faced with unique problems that our generation does not face, or at least I did not have to face. Migration in the 90s, pre-social media, all these mediums of connectivity that exist today did not exist back then. Assimilating into a new environment, into a new country at such a young age, that must have been extremely challenging for them. And they didn't come with a whole lot of wealth, and they really just were in survival mode. And I have a lot of empathy for the unique challenges that they would have faced having gone through something like that. Somewhere along the lines, because they were so young when they got married, and they were so young, like babies when they had a baby, if we think about it now, a 19-year-old mother, I mean, I hadn't figured anything out at 19. I just started figuring myself out at like 30, right? So all of those things presented complications in their marriage. And having presented those complications in their marriage, they had a lot on their plate. Now, I'm not making any excuses for them, but I am setting the story here. They had a lot on their plate. My needs were met, right? My survival needs were met. I don't know that my psychological and emotional needs were met. Now, again, not making any excuses, but that could also be because they weren't psychologically and emotionally 100% developed yet. They were really young, very naive, and I think the idea of actually parenting comes with maturity. And I can definitely see a little more of that when it came to my brother, who came 6 years after me. So with me, I think they were quite young and quite fish out of water. So they had their own problems amongst themselves. One of the problems being at the forefront was domestic abuse. My father was a very, very violent husband. He was very physically violent, and he was very emotionally abusive. That's all I'll say about that, because that's about them. I will, however, talk about the effect that that has on me. There was really little understanding of the fact that children so young should not bear witness to these things. Again, I will spare you the details. Witnessing that as a child alone, subtracting anything else that I'm going to add on to it and talk about, that alone is very, very chaotic and can be very detrimental for a developing mind. It can have a great impact on one's ability to function as an adult, as a regular member of society, with good mental health. But there's more. We've got the domestic abuse, which I'm full on witnessing, and then add on top of that my parents do go on to divorcing later on. But there's things that happen in the middle. Because my parents are so preoccupied, and children are very adaptive, right? My survival mechanism is to become very independent, even as a 3-year-old, even as a 4-year-old, which as a mother now to a 2.5-year-old, breaks my heart. I do believe that children have to grow up quick and become independent when they realize no one's coming to save them. That's a really harsh and difficult thing to digest, especially as my parents were battling their own problems. There was no place in me that wanted to go to my parents with my own problems. It felt like they had enough on their plate. But just hold that for a second. For a 5-year-old to have that kind of complex understanding is just not right. A 5-year-old should not have to make space for their parents' problems. A 5-year-old should not have to become hyper independent and mature to deal with their own needs, their own unmet needs. So now we're gonna talk about the other really difficult part of this story, which is childhood sexual abuse. So I was left a lot as a result of my parents trying to make ends meet as new immigrants and working odd jobs and upgrading themselves and doing whatever they can to make ends meet and have my basic needs met, but they were also emotionally unavailable because they were dealing with their own demons. What that did was it left me alone a lot. And I don't mean they left me as a 5-year-old unattended at home. No, I was just left with other people a lot. Not other people that were judged and dissected and understood and deemed safe, but other people, as in whoever was available, really. Whoever was from our known circle and was available was who I got left with. I was left with babysitters, uncles, family friends at an auntie's house who had older sons. Ages 4 to 15, I had no clue what was going on. Every step of the way where I was left with other people, I was abused. I became hyper independent and hyper aware and hyper mature at an early age. There were ways that I could manipulate the situation and get out of it before it ever got out of hand. But I think a child being abused that way means it's already gotten out of hand. Why did it happen to me? It happened because predators like that can identify an easy target and they can swoop in for the kill. My parents were absent and drowning in their own sorrows. Everyone saw that and knew that. What was left was me. Unattended, innocent, and scared. I was an easy target because of my parents' absence and unavailability. Loads of opportunities in your home by your trusted people. If a child is left not just unattended, I understand, you gotta leave your kid. Where's my kid right now? You know, you have to leave your kid places sometimes. You have to go and be a human being and do other things. But who are those people? What are the terms? What are the signs you are looking out for when your child comes home or when you pick them up or when you wake them up the next morning? I've grown up witnessing domestic abuse. I've grown up being sexually abused, and then my parents got divorced. Now, like I said, any one of those things would be enough to really, really challenge the adult that you grow into. I had all three and some, and some. That is just too much to talk about in one sitting. Experiencing all of this and having no healthy way to process it and heal from it or be protected, having no one to turn to and go to, having no one that I thought was available enough to listen to me and help me, left me exhausted and broken. I am anxiety and panic attack ridden, and it's just my body's way of continuing to protect me. I still live with it today, my chronic anxiety, and I probably will forever. Two people immensely changed my life, my husband and my daughter. In my husband, I found the stability and acceptance, respect, nurturing love and kindness, and positive masculine strength that I lacked in my father growing up. In my daughter, I found my own motherhood and a mirror image to correct what went wrong in the last cycle, and I put my foot down. Mothering with a pre-existing anxiety disorder, having postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, is so incredibly challenging on its own. I mean, motherhood without any of those things is challenging on its own. I learned after becoming a parent that parenthood is incredibly challenging. There's no denying that. And that somehow, even as broken as I am now, we still find ways to show up and protect our young. We choose every day to build our lives around our child. If it is this easy, even when it is so hard, then what excuse did my parents have? That realization changed me phenomenally, and I start putting up real and hard boundaries with people who have systemically destroyed me and the little girl I was and the woman I could have been. And there is so much more that was going on in the background of all of this, a lot more chaos in our lives that I had to navigate like an adult, first for myself and then for the protection of my brother. And then slowly, somehow, I inherited that role for the household, and I had to do it for my mom and everyone else that she dragged into our lives. When I got married, I finally had some space, both physical and mental. keeping me from the chaos. You see, when you leave the eye of the storm, you finally have a moment to pull back and look at yourself and assess all your wounds. I couldn't do that before marriage because I was still in fight or flight at my mom's. After marriage, the anxiety floodgates burst open because I stepped out from the storm and finally assessed my wounds, and I was like, whoa. And 2 days before my 30th birthday, I had probably the most major breakdown induced by family drama. I did the best thing that I could have ever done for myself. I searched online, found the first face that felt comfortable, comforting, called him up, and got myself a therapist. I am hell-bent now on healing, being better and doing better for myself and my little family. This podcast or these discussions is a way for me to heal because staying silent eats you away from the inside. Oh, it's decaying. Gritting my teeth and holding it together no longer works. We just need to talk about it so we can change it. I realized my power lies in my words and my ability to talk it out. I'm using my strengths to aid my healing and help anyone else who needs to hear these things to feel less alone or expand their mindset to raise their children safer and more mindfully. These things are so shunned and not talked about in our culture. It's so hush-hush, like I'm supposed to carry the shame. No. The people who failed me are supposed to carry the shame. I only know that now because I'm a mom, and I would never want my daughter to carry that shame. Today, I am candid about everything and most things. I lead with my intuition and a slower paced life with loads of space and time for reflection and healing. My sole purpose is to be present for my child and myself first, and then my husband. Doesn't matter how broken I am, she gets the only whole parts of me that are left until I can patch up the rest. Broken cracks in me, fragments of the person I could have been without all this trauma, all these things caused by others and their failures. But I'm left picking up the pieces by myself. Anxiety-ridden, often at the precipice of a breakdown, but I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll glue the cracks and continue to recollect the broken pieces with bloody fingers if I have to. I will heal. I am healing. For me, for my daughter, for my husband. And I will acknowledge that my inner strength does not come from the way I was raised or the people that I was raised by. No, friends, my inner strength exists despite them. I hope that gives you a little insight into why I'm on this healing journey, why I want to live life more present, more intuitively. Thank you for sitting with me today. Thank you for listening to everything I had to say. I hope I'm not leaving you with a heavy feeling in your heart. I don't mean for it to be that, because look at me now. I hope you take away my strength from this video. And I hope that this backstory helps shed light on my approach to life from here on. And I will see you guys in the next one.